All right, so we'll start this meeting today. Thank you all again for coming. So first of all, does anybody have any situations that we can help with?
I got a good one, Shelby.
Okay, Jake, throw it at us.
So I just went and looked at a property for some people. They are currently contingent upon selling their house. Their house is paid off, and they're going to
Okay.
talk to their lender about becoming non-contingent and what that would take because they have some money saved up as well. But they'll be putting like $200,000 down on the next house, things like that. Is there a way to write up like multiple offers? Say, hey, this is our contingent offer. We'll be waiving appraisals, putting $200,000 down. And then this is a non-contingent offer where we still have to have an appraisal because we're only able to put, say, 30 grand down. Has anybody run into that situation?
That's a good one, Jake.
I
So
don't
what
know
are
if
they waiting? What are they waiting on? To see, are they willing to go both ways? Is that what it is?
yeah, no, the people that want to buy the house, they're fine with if they can just whichever way they can buy it because they currently have like 5 offers or something on their house. They're going to accept one later today. I'm not sure the terms of they're out of I think they're in St. Louis, so I haven't gone over any of the terms or anything like that with the other offers with them yet. But say it's just a normal one where they have 10-day inspection period and things like that. I just wasn't sure if there was a way to present the multiple different options for the seller. Or I maybe just call them and ask them, but
Are there other offers on that house?
I'm sure there will be. It just went live today, and I mean, it looked like a brand new house. It was one of those 415. I mean, it was. I was trying to find things to nitpick, and it was the transitions from the hallway to the bedroom. They were missing it on one room. That was about as
Oh,
much as I
the
could
deal
nitpick.
breaker. That's a tough
Yeah.
one.
Can't buy it.
Yeah, that's out.
Yeah.
Or take 30 grand off,
But I mean, heck, even their garage, like all like it's funny. I always look at like how people organize their tools and stuff like that too when they're staging it. I mean, this guy had a spot for like basically outlined where all of his tools went because he was so organized. It was just one of those houses, you know. So I'm assuming there's. I had the one I had in Eagle Glen that was the same price. Wasn't nearly as big. Had 6 offers on it. So I'm just assuming we're going to go multiple offers on this one.
Sure. Well, I would just think and talk to your buyers of what do we have to do to win? Instead of worried about maybe submitting 2 different versions of an offer, like what do we have to do to win? Because it most likely will be multiple offer situations. So what's the best position for your buyers to end up at the top of that pile?
Because I mean, heck, if they are contingent, they could pay buyer agent commission, they could waive the appraisal, all sorts of stuff, is because they'll just have a lot of cash that they're putting down. But some people look at a contingency and then they completely write it off. So I've called this person twice. They've texted me back, but they've never answered their phone.
Mm.
As far as the listing agent.
I have an idea for this situation on if our buyers are going out shopping and we know that they're going to be, contingent on selling their homes, are we suggesting to them to call an inspection company and do a pre-inspection so that when we do put an offer in on another house, we can say we've already done a pre-inspection on our own home, we've fixed the things that need to be fixed. So when we do have a buyer, then if they do inspections, we already know what's going on with our home for the most part. So that's going to be less likely chance that that will fall out of place.
That's a good idea.
That just hit me. So I wrote it down while you were talking. So
I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead, Sandy.
Did you say that their house was paid off?
Yeah,
And so that house is the one they're going to be contingent with?
correct.
Why don't you get with Todd and recast the money?
That's they have a local lender out there in St. Louis that they're working with. And I talked to him yesterday about that. He's going to work on it and see what he can do. I think they're meeting today at noon to see how they become non-contingent because they don't have any debt, but he's a teacher. So I'm assuming, and I think she stays home. So I think it's just income to like purchase price ratio. 'Cause
Right.
I don't think they have any other debt.
That's how I usually handle those that are paid off and they want to use that money, just do recast.
Yeah, he talked to them about doing like a reverse, um, and then having to do the recast, which they weren't really a fan of that, just with all the extra fees and stuff like that. But
Mm. Oh, because they think their house might not sell
no, their house will
in
sell. They
6
just don't have
months.
the cash to put down on the next house. Is what I'm
Oh, I
assuming.
see what you're saying.
Yeah, I need to talk to the lender more and see why they are contingent. If it's just cash or how much cash, and maybe mom and dad can loan us 30 grand for 3 days.
Yeah, because they have 6 months to recast the money over from their house.
Yeah, I did send them to Todd originally, and then they're like, "Well, we're just going to go with our local guy here." Okay, he was fine, but
I had a buyer do
Local,
that. Oh,
yeah.
yeah, just happened yesterday. Almost caused the entire deal to fall apart because the wonderful person at that bank happened to go on vacation and didn't tell anybody. So I was like, we have closing on Monday. Is there money? Where's the closing disclosures? What's going on here? But yeah, so it is hard to relay to them that those bankers, they work 9 to 5, and when they log off for vacations, they are gone.
mm,
They are useless. So, but trying to, yeah, I understand your pain, Jake.
all good. We'll get it
All
figured
good.
out. I just wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure if anybody had ever done that with the, because I'm like, man, I could kind of present the two different scenarios, but I wasn't sure exactly how to do that other than just verbally telling them that. But if they get 10 offers in, are they going to remember my verbal offer where I said, hey, there's two different options here, or can I attach a letter or something like that with it? I might just do that, attach a letter.
I think that's a good idea. It helps explain, and then if they need to go back and refresh their memory on that offer, then it explains who you guys are. So,
Mm.
okay, guys. Anybody else got anything going on? Nothing? Okay. All right. I wanted to do a very quick agent spotlight to Josh and Paul Fife for bringing the chat GPT into our office at like full force because they always bring it up. Chat GPT, I can't tell you how many times I have used it recently. I'm noticing a lot of other agents not making their clients fill out seller's disclosures and putting unknown and leaving blanks. So it's really hard to come up with off the whim trying to read a model number in a dark, dingy, gross basement. So I don't know how many people are using the app, but it's super simple. I can take a screenshot and put it into our comments later. But I definitely recommend downloading it. It is so easy. You take one picture, it pulls up everything about the furnace or the AC. It pulls up about the water heater. It can just give you gobs of information in just seconds. And so it's really helpful when you're at a buyer's, showing a house and the seller claims they don't know anything about the house they've lived in for 25 years. So um, so thank you guys so much. And then I also wanted to give a kudos to the Five team because they mentioned the app VN for videos, and it is really user friendly, super easy to use. And so I've been using that app to build my videos. You have like up to 100 for free. And I definitely, when they want me to pay for that app, I'll happily pay for that app because it is really easy. So thank you guys for bringing that technology to our office because I am utilizing it.
Awesome.
Not very good at it, but utilizing it.
That's
So,
cool. Thank you.
yeah, I hope it helps everybody because a lot of sellers disclosures are empty and it really stinks. So, um, on that topic, when we are sitting down with our sellers, before we take that and scan it in, extra cautionary, go through line by line because every single thing they have filled out on there is one less text, email, question that you're going to get from the buyer's agent, which saves us time. Also, it protects us in the future and our sellers in the future. And it's a really good idea to have that extra sheet in there that says when they did different stuff, such as, oh, we put in new concrete patio 2025, or we put in this in such a year. Just that extra sheet just shows the buyers, hey, they really cared about their home. They did this improvement, and this improvement. And it kind of helps to justify if they're asking a certain amount and you're trying to work comps. So it's explanatory. I thought today would be a great day to do scenarios and resolutions. So that is our whole structure for today. As a new agent, I run into things and my heart kind of starts to race because I'm like, I don't know what to say. These people have been alive 30 years longer than me. They know a whole lot more about life than I do. And how do I fix this problem? So my brain is constantly like, okay, Shelby, what do I do next? How do I fix this? So, um, being proactive is one of my priorities. So, with contracts, um, I won a deal yesterday where we asked for 2 years home warranty because the HVAC is on the upper age level, and so was the hot water heater. So we were super excited, got 2 years home warranty. I did text Kent this morning to double check myself. And I don't think he texted me back yet with Cinch home warranty, but maybe somebody else on this call can confirm. If a buyer's agent, we get the warranty, it starts even before we're closed, correct? Like it's technically on the house during the process of buying it. Am I on the right train of
I
thought?
believe, I think if it's a buyer's warranty is being bought for the buyer, I believe its effective date is the closing date.
Okay.
If the listing agent has put the warranty in place on the house, then that's a whole different story because then it would actually cover the house while the seller still owns it and then takes over as soon as the buyer owns it. I believe that's true. We don't do a lot of warranties, so if anybody has any more information on that, please share.
Well,
So we got one just recently with Cinch and my seller of the house in Freeman you went to. So it covers her for now. And then she's giving it to the buyers, but they could purchase it at closing, but it would have covered her for everything up until that point.
well, that's what I was gonna say too, is I think you have to call and ask for the seller coverage while it's under contract. And I don't think there's any charge for that. I'm looking at Cinch. It doesn't say it's free, but I think they offer the free seller coverage. And it does say, and not that you can read it, but there is a line for sellers and then 2 for buyers. So I think they're gonna be different. I don't think you should just assume that they're covered because the buyers are buying a policy. It'd be worth calling, get it turned on while it's on the market, probably for free.
I wouldn't
Perfect.
think it would be effective until you pay for it, which would be at closing.
We didn't have to pay for ours until closing, but yet we were covered from the day that we put it under their warranty. So my seller is covered.
But-
Now she's not asking the buyers to pay for it at closing. She's giving it to them. However, she doesn't have to pay for it until closing.
But you're on the seller side, so you're initiating it from the seller side. I think Shelby was asking from the buyer side.
Two totally different things.
Yes, buyer side would not be until they closed and paid for it.
So Shelby, there's probably one more phone call in there to get it turned on to be covered during the on market and under contract phase.
Yeah, I use Arcosa with Faith Weber,
Yeah.
and one of the questions was, does the seller want coverage? And I had the buyer, and I said no, but I didn't ask. The agent doesn't answer her phone, so it wasn't something I could ask her.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Okay, well, that's great, guys. And I hope that's helpful. What I was thinking, my train of thought was, if we encourage our sellers to say, hey, let's go ahead and get this home warranty, it's a plus, plus, plus on your end because it's automatically into effect, like Trisha just did with her seller and Freeman. And then I think it would put my buyers at ease already knowing I'm getting a home warranty. So, yes, the HVAC is 10 plus years old, but it's okay. They've already promised a home warranty. So, how do you guys feel that your buyers, do you think they would be appreciative of it, or do you think they would err on the side of caution of, oh, why do they have a home warranty already? Do they think this stuff's going to break? I just wondered what people's thoughts were.
It can only be looked at as a positive. I've never seen it
Mhm.
anyone say because the seller put coverage on that they are worried about their house in any way.
I've sold a lot of them for buyers prior to COVID. They were almost always on as one of the things we wanted, but we did look at the age of the units and all of those things. And if they were older, that's how we combated that issue because we already knew the seller wasn't going to go in and purchase new things. So this just would help them in the event something happened. It gave them a year to save their money to, every month to buy a new one towards the end of the year or whatever. They could even extend the warranty another year. So I always thought it was a positive.
I would also look at with each warranty company, see exactly what their coverage is for those big ticket items, because I think what you'll find is it's limited coverage. That you can't be in the warranty business and have an $800 warranty and get hit with a $5,000 claim. That's a bad business model. So do know that. Your hot water heaters now, as expensive as they're getting, just look and see what that dollar amount limitation is from warranty company to warranty company.
Yeah, and another thing to consider is where the home is. If it's further out of town, further south or something, some some of them, they have their preferred people. And I had like one in Harrisonville, and I think it was 210 sent a guy from Grain Valley, a plumber from Grain Valley. The guy got there, then he has to get the work approved. That was going to be the next day, so he didn't come back. And then they ended up having to call a local guy. So I think, was it a Choza or something like that, that you can choose your own people or something. So for the
Yes.
rural properties, there's somebody who makes it a little easier. I forget who it was, but
Arcosa with Faith Weber. Yes, you're able to use your own vendors wherever you are.
So that's something to think about if you're looking at Freeman or Drexel or Clinton, Urick, wherever, Garden City.
Yeah.
So
The reason I like her is because she's available. Like if I have a question about anything, she's available almost always, 9 out of 10 times, maybe 9.5 out of 10 times. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy working with her.
Well, I would say that is the key to the home warranty companies is getting a good local rep that will help you push those through. Because I've had myself claims, other people I've known make claims, and we always have to get the reps involved to help push it through. So getting a great rep that will answer their phone is going to be super helpful.
Another thing that I noticed with home warranties is they want to see that it was serviced recently by an HVAC person. If something does happen, they ask for that. So I have noticed that the home inspection doesn't seem to jive because you've already waited 30 days, where there was nothing. I had the inspection done and then waited 30 days to close, of course. The next day, the people moved in, and the following day, their AC quit. And it was in August. They would not cover it, even though it worked 30 days prior. So always be mindful of that to have something showing that it was working. And I did have the inspection report that showed, but they still wouldn't cover it.
Well, sometimes Sandy, when I'm asking for a home warranty on older HVAC system, I do like to ask, and Shelby, this goes back to what your original thought was on the resolution. Maybe ask the seller to have it cleaned and serviced, so you do have something from an actual HVAC person to say, I was out, I serviced it. Yes, it's older, but it was working. And then you can prove that. So that would help with that, Sandy.
Yes,
Us-
that's
and
always a good thing.
And usually those service calls are only 69, 79 bucks. I mean, you can get somebody will be having a promotion to come and clean and service the unit. And then you've got some sort of documentation that it was working.
Right.
All Hours Heating and Cooling do all my listings. So you might call them. That way they can list, yes, older, but completely functioning, which is helpful.
Yeah, he offers that service for free, doesn't he? Has he offered it
No.
for free?
It is not for free, but it is still worth it. Right.
He might for some agents that he knows.
Okay.
So
I heard that before.
Yeah, he's been great about, like he let me send out a flyer to all of my customers, offering them a huge discount, which was great because all my clients got a coupon from him. But the overall to come out initial and write your report does have a fee attached to it.
I love the Bennett family. This is so funny. I worked with them at Johnson's Farms 15 years ago. So they're good people, very good family. Very good family. So I'm glad we have them at our fingertips. So thank you guys so much for that. So hopefully all of us can proactively get them into our listings before we go live, and then having that information, hey, we just had it checked by an HVAC company. That should, calm some fears that buyers, walk into.
Hey, Shelby, on a related note, Royal, I believe, will still come check out roofs before you list them too, to give you some
Good idea.
insight on the roof too. So, because that's another big high dollar item. So.
And that was for free. I did get them for free.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
I think the roof is a very important one, especially if it's questionable, it's 10, 12 years old, something like that. Like we either have a report that says it's great, or we get a market a property that has a brand new roof on it. So either way, the seller wins.
Or maybe even some easy fixes.
Right.
So.
Awesome. And again, just having that in the listing packet for buyers to see eliminates another potential situation. I put in an offer on a home with a friend, client, but she's a friend. And we knew the roof wasn't in the best shape. I had the roofing company come look at it. And then the Olivas crawled up in the attic, and there was mold all over every single rafter. And that could have been prevented. We tried to work through it with them, and the sellers had a very, very high deductible for their home insurance, and they didn't have the funds to cover it. And there were some other like big ticket items that were not working. And so we ended up passing. But had that listing agent had the inspection done before and knew that, maybe we wouldn't have fallen out of contract, because it would have had a new roof and they would have hopefully mitigated the mold. So yeah, that is great, guys. Anybody have anything to add?
Could you have gotten those things done and had them covered at closing?
The sellers weren't willing to come together on like the price situation. The sewer line was broke to the
Gotcha.
it's like a huge tree stump in the sewer line. And so again, another unforeseeable problem. And yeah, so they were trying to get into another house and everything was super tight. And the mold pretty much scared my client because it was everywhere. So yeah, oh yeah, Ryan, a lot of deferred maintenance. So, but it looked cute from the outside, it looked cute on the inside, but those big ticket items being ignored really halted everything. So they ended up canceling.
Mold really used to scare me, but I have this company that I use. I think it's Mold Experts, and they're pretty reasonable. They can clean off all the rafters. And I had a house over at Windmill Country Estates, and it had mold all in the basement on the rafters. And a lot of basements do, he said, because it's, dark down there and no one's down there. If they're, well, in this case, there was just no one down there. The house was vacant for a while, but he came in and cleaned it all for like $1,500 and then does another mold test to make sure that it's got, air quality. He sends that off to make sure that it's clean air.
And I had talked to a mold person, and I think they said it was $1.25 per square foot, and
Mhm.
presented that in the sellers.
Hmm.
It, yeah,
They just weren't receptive to fixing anything.
yeah. There was, yeah. Um, it
Well,
stunk.
hopefully the next buyer doesn't mind mold and bad roof and a broken sewer line.
Right?
Because they
Right.
will. Yeah, that's the way I always look at it.
Yes, yeah, because I just thought, well, we can fix certain things, and we can work through things, but there were just too many things on that one, I guess. So that is super helpful, guys. And especially if we go into a listing, if we go into a listing presentation and we notice that the basement has the musty smell, should we proactively go ahead and call the mold experts and just get their opinion so that if buyers do walk in and they do smell the musty smell, we can have a report that says we had the air quality tested, there's no mold, it's just a musty smell?
I've
Don't do
never
that.
done it unless I see it.
Yeah.
Like a dehumidifier can make a difference with some of that.
Yeah, and sometimes the smell you're getting is from the, if it has laundry hookups down there, the drain. There's just so many different culprits you can get a musty smell from in a finished or unfinished basement. It's kind of hard for us to just go. Otherwise, we would almost have to have something pre-inspected on everything. So it's got to be pretty blatant for us to be that proactive. Not that that's a bad idea, but I think there's some limitations on what we can really do.
Okay. Because I was showing a buyer last week, and she said, well, it smells musty in here, there's probably mold. And I just said, well, we can't just automatically say that. You
Yeah.
can't just assume that. So, okay.
And everybody's sensitivity is different. Everybody's tolerance is different. Some people are like, oh, that's no big deal. I grew up in a house just like this. It was fine. And then you have other people that I had one buyer one time, they lost their whole house in New York to mold. And so they're very traumatized by that. It was a rental and they lost all their stuff. I don't know exactly what happened, but when I was showing them houses, they were super sensitive. And it was almost like every house we walked into, they're like, yep, I smell it. It's in here. Mold is here. And I was like, oh my goodness, are we ever going to find them a house? And when we finally did, they did their mold test, but they did their own. And so we took a little Swiffer, those little Swiffers that you dust with, put on
Yeah.
a glove, and she went around the whole house and she's Swiffering all the everything. And I'm like, okay, do what you got to do, girl, And she, thank goodness it passed, and it came in at an agreeable number for her, and she bought the house. So you just never know. People are all over the spectrum with that. So
Okay.
I wouldn't offer it. Don't make a big deal about it unless they make a big deal about it,
Okay.
Mhm. Well, because the contract states that homes have a certain amount of it in them anyway. All homes, not just one or two. They have bacteria, they have
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
And so they see that on the contract.
Well, and the contract also says that yes, we educate them about that they have the right to have mold and other microbials and radon, all of that inspected. It's their right if they want to do that.
Yep.
So we just educate and then let them decide, do they want to do that?
Right.
Oh, awesome. All right. Okay, so earnest money. I had an agent, we put an offer in over the weekend and they wanted additional earnest money. So the first initial earnest money was the 1% refundable. And then they wanted the second earnest funds after inspections non-refundable. Are any of our agents using this additional earnest funds? I have not dabbled in that, and I would really like to learn more. I think from what I kind of read into it is they were buying a new build, and they just wanted to ensure, I guess, that if we fell out of contract somehow after inspections, that they would have some sort of money. But what do you guys think about the additional earnest money?
Shelby, I had to jump into this not too long ago with Marcia and I were working on a transaction together, and it was on the horse farm out there at Pinedale, and
Yeah.
there was a lot going on with that. Like it needed to be rebuilt. There was a fire in the house. It was down to the studs. So the buyer was working on a lot of bids. And so initially they did an inspection and were satisfied with the property. But it took them a lot longer to get through all of the bids and the contractors and figuring out what their numbers were going to be. Their commitment was to buy the property all along. And so we set up a program where they would continue to deposit earnest money along the way. And they were actually delayed, I think at least once. And so we asked for another additional non-refundable every time, every 30 days, because we understood what their commitment level was. Obviously, working with Marcia, I know like she's working hard on her end, and I'm representing my client as well to make sure we come together. And it really, what it did is it cemented the fact that the buyer was going to move forward and they were going to close. They had, I think, it's all behind us now, but I think they had ended up having like 30,000 in earnest money at the end of this. So we knew they weren't going to just pull the plug and change their mind because they were going to back out of $1,000 or $2,000. They had a significant amount. So if you have a deal like that has a lot of different steps to go through, and you want to make sure the buyer stays committed and doesn't lose interest, just continue, like work that out up front on how you're going to proceed and just step into that. And they can be 2,000 a month or 20,000 a month, whatever makes sense in the whole deal. But that's how we worked it, and it kept everybody on board, and we got to the finish line. It was an awesome transaction.
That's awesome. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to. Yeah, because I had not dabbled in that, so that's really interesting, Ryan. That's super helpful. Does anybody else have anything to add to that situation?
Yeah, on new construction, it is not uncommon for buyers to request a customization at some point, and when they do that, the builder would require a non-refundable deposit for that.
Gotcha.
In the traditional resale arena, where we're selling a house, I would say it's extremely uncommon, other than the situations that are kind of one-offs, like what Ryan described. I can only think of a couple times in my career that we've seen that, where if somebody put a good solid earnest money up, there was a requirement for a second one. It's obviously protects the seller. So, I guess everything's negotiable, no different than the amount of the original deposit. But at the end of the day, those have been very few and far between.
I'm wondering if that'd be worthwhile if someone needs to extend a contingency or something like that to offer to do that to keep the seller on board.
Yeah, good tool. That would be one area where it would make some sense. But overall, I think that would be something we would see very infrequently.
Yeah, definitely a 1-off or a 10-off, really. Just very rare. But to Nate's point, absolutely on new construction, you've got buyers that they want what they want, and they want a bunch of different improvements. Well, we had one. I think the buyer added about an extra $300,000 worth of improvements to the house. And of course, there was no commission on any of that money, because that was outside the overall contract, which was stipulated. And so you got to look at that as well. But again, they want what they want. So they had to keep bringing cash to the table to pay for those upgrades along the way. That way you don't run into appraisal issues. Like, everything is going to be taken care of in the end. But yeah, builders will want that money up front.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I just thought that was so odd that she was asking us to front $6,000, and 3 of it non-refundable. I just thought that was kind of, yeah, I hadn't dealt with that before. So, but I really like the idea of, if we are, like Paul said, accepting a contingency, and then that holds the buyer at least to get or something if it does fall apart. So,
And Shelby, did you correct me did you said it was new construction? Is that right? Or
no,
resale?
a resale.
It was
Yeah.
resale. Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
resale. Yeah, it's the house off of J Highway.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so we ended up not agreeing. So it's all good. We'll keep shopping. We'll keep shopping. So, okay, guys, I feel like this call is going so good. And to be totally honest, I have been nervous as heck to put this call on, because it's scary knowing everybody's depending on me to come up with stuff to talk about for 60 minutes. So,
Hey,
I
we
hope-
can come up with all kinds of stuff, Shelby.
okay, good. Okay, well, we'll keep trucking. I got 23 minutes to keep you guys entertained. So, all right. So, another situation. Has anyone ever dealt with a situation where you did put in non-refundable earnest money to the seller, and something went south on the seller's behalf, and the buyer has anybody came into that before?
No, so your buyer put up non-refundable money, but then the seller refused to close.
Yep.
Okay, so the earnest money really is not applicable. That was only for the buyer's performance, if I'm understanding you correctly. The seller's biggest concern would be the fact they just violated the terms of a contract. So the binding part of the contract that holds everybody's feet to the fire. Because what we have to remember is earnest money is only one piece of the equation. At the end of the day, if somebody doesn't perform on a contract and it creates a damage to one of the other parties, their bigger concern isn't possibly losing some earnest money. Their biggest concern should be the other party saying, hey, I'm going to be suing you for performance because this is going to cost me this, this, and this. Whether it's delaying my move, cost me a house I'm buying, I'm going to pay 3 more months of mortgage payments, legal fees. It goes on and on. So when a seller balks like that, I'm always tempted to have the buyer try to hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah, most generally the sellers are ready to perform. They want to sell the property for some capacity or another, and they've come to an agreement with the buyer. Most generally the sellers are performing. Now, how they make their repairs, how they clean out the house, things like that. Yeah, we see some variances on that piece of it, but overall performance, as far as getting to the closing table, we have not had a problem with the seller performing.
I think James Mooningham had that last year, where the week of closing, the seller said, hey, we need another $6,000 from you, or we're not closing. And it was also somebody that bought the house from me, and week of closing said, no, we need all these things fixed or we're not closing. So I think that's just how they run their business. But I've seen that happen before, but not just no sign for no reason.
Yeah, Jake, oh, go ahead.
No, you go, John. Your turn.
I was just gonna, sorry, just good morning, everybody. Kind of out and about, driving all around. Yeah, that one with James was wonky. There's some bad actors out there. Ultimately, like, Lonnie and everybody talks to, trains up to at Southland, how do we hold each other accountable? There was one we had about a year and a half ago. Jake, you made me think of this when you mentioned that. It was a commercial deal, and the sellers, we taken like a $10,000 earnest money deposit, and the sellers actually closed, and then the buyers were supposed to close the next day, and their lender sent over, clear to close everything. And it was really, really odd. The buyer, for no uncertain reason of any kind, and we even asked for it, literally just, oh, I changed my mind. I'm not closing. And so what we did is the sellers, they contacted their lawyer, and they are still actually mitigating that like a year and a half later. Um, the earnest money deposit never got returned because the sellers were like, hey, give us a reason. They never gave a reason. So, but yeah, like to Lonnie's point, man, the process, we just let that money stay in limbo. It's not going to get released. And then, of course, my sellers, they ended up, getting legal action to sue. But and matter of fact, I got an email the other day asking for an appraisal from that process, which we still had on file, but had to find and get all this stuff to them. But anyway, so it takes a while to get that stuff back, but learning through the process. But man, it was just really weird. So $10,000 earnest money deposit, the buyer's not going to get back that. Sellers are, they dug in, and a year and a half later, they're still battling. So just FYI.
Wow.
Now, anytime I have a client that's threatening to not close, a buyer or seller, for whatever reason, usually all I've had to do is say, okay, I would advise you to speak to your attorney about that, because we do have a legal binding contract that you said you would sell or you said you would buy. If you're changing your mind, this is now out of my realm of advice. I can't advise you on this. I need you to see your attorney and see what that can look like for you. And usually just not threatening, but advising that, they're like, oh, wow, this is a big deal. And so I haven't, had anybody sue anybody, but it totally is possible. This is a legal binding contract that they agreed to. And I know back when the market was really crazy in 2020, 2021, we would have sellers. I would meet with sellers and they'll say, okay, I'm not going to sell my house until I know where I'm going. Well, we know that contingencies really weren't a thing. And so they would try to do reverse contingencies, saying, well, if I don't find a house, then I'm not selling my house. And that got a little weird a few times on me because, you have a contract to sell your house regardless of whether you found something or not. And I know that was an old season. We don't need to rehash that, but it just throwing it out there like, hey, you know what? This is a legal binding contract. We talked about that when we signed it. So now you need, I would recommend you speak to your attorney. And usually that's all it takes. And then, if they, we can always just usually talk through it, get through the closing, and then decide what they want to do after that.
Yeah, usually it's cheaper to just close, live in it for 3 months and sell it versus pay an attorney.
Right. Great point.
Great point.
Because it is possible, and I haven't seen this, but I had a broker tell me one time, it is possible that they could be sued. Like if the buyer backs out, they could be sued. A judge could rule against them. They still have to buy the house and pay for attorney fees for the seller and all of that. It could get really, really ugly, really, really quick. So
Yeah, Brandy, that's kind of where we're at. And this particular buyer that backed out on our sellers a year and a half ago, he's a business owner and an investor. So, those are some pretty small circles. So, unfortunately, I think a lot of those bad decisions by people, that stuff has a way of coming back around. I mean, not obviously by anything, on our team, but or our sellers or nothing like that, but just, you get it gets posted when you go into litigation, it gets posted when you get into, lawsuits, stuff like that. That stuff's out there, CaseNet and all this kind of stuff. So there's all those, remedial and unforeseen circumstances that those parties probably aren't thinking about when they're kind of having, knee jerk reactions. To Jake's point, it's, obviously you're better off to legally, get it done and then turn around and make that decision 3 or 6 months later and then just, move your money around. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, it's my first experience with seeing somebody go this far through the process. So it's been interesting.
I mean, I think it emphasizes the point on matters who you work with. I don't think we have many stories of that whenever we do in-house deals or work with other Keller Williams agents.
Sometimes what I'll do is, being on the listing side more often than not, an agent will call me and go, hey, I know we're supposed to close in 10 days. Everything's all set. Just so you know, my buyers are getting a little squirrely. And, they're threatening about maybe not closing for whatever reason. So this may be one of those where just keep the earnest money and I'm so sorry. And then I'll just take a really firm stance and go, hey, I don't even know what the earnest money is, but at the end of the day, the earnest money is the least of your concerns. My seller has already started their process for their next home. They're in whatever that might be. And I just take a real strong stance. I go, our first call will be to the attorney that I use for all my stuff. And I can assure you they will do everything to hold your buyer's feet to the fire.
Awesome.
At the end of the day, we can't put a gun to anybody's head, right?
Right.
But you would be surprised by taking that stance, how many times that agent then talks to their buyer and somehow they end up at closing. Okay. We've had situations where maybe two single people buying together and maybe they have a little riff before closing and now they're not going to close. Hey, I didn't contract with you subject to you guys staying friends or your relationship being solid or whatever. We have a binding contract that can be enforced, and you will damage us if you don't close per the contract. And honestly, I will see to it that my seller gets the advice from our attorney as far as how to make this contract perform. This little gal from Reese Nichols in Belton, it was her first deal, and her people did that. And I'll never forget it because she was so excited about her $9,000 commission. And she's just like, I can't believe this deal's my first deal. It's going to fall apart. And I go, it hasn't fallen apart yet. And I said, let me send you an email of exactly what this is going to look like. And it was pretty scathing, to be perfectly honest with you, because I knew my seller was going to be in a complete bind. Now, my seller may not have chosen to spend the money to get their attorney involved, but I would have certainly tried to get that done. We would have at least sent a $300 threatening letter. But anyway, by the time we responded back to that agent, her people decided to close. And after closing, and I still know her, she's not in the business anymore. She remembers that we got her paid by just enforcing what the contract already says.
Thank you guys. This is great information. I hope everybody's taking in as much as I am, because this is great, because you just never know what you're going to deal with on the day to day, and being able to have that firm, no, this is happening. You agreed to it. Now we're going to make it happen and see it through. Because we have a lot of time and effort involved in every single step of this transaction. And then when they fault, it costs us time and money too. So, okay, next question. I've got somebody thinking about selling their home, and they're saying they're going to do a carpet allowance for the next person. I have not dealt with this before. I see allowances on the MLS, and I know this is probably common sense, but I don't know how to deal with this. So, do we go ahead and get new carpet put in so it has fresh carpet and smells good, and get in touch with Carpet Fless and possibly ask to pay for it at closing? Or how do you put it in on the contract so that it comes off the estimated the proceeds at closing? How does this work?
I can
Can't really see a
jump in
carpet.
on that. Yeah, so carpet allowance, we've talked about this before, and it's great. You'll talk to a seller and like, yeah, we're just gonna do a carpet allowance, and then that way they can pick out whatever they want. It'll be great for them. And what ultimately it is for a buyer, they look at it and like, I have to deal with this carpet, I have to get it out, I have to get a bid, several contractors, I got to figure out what the cost is, all this, and then get them in here. And I would just want to move in and start living. And so that's a hassle to them. They don't want that hassle. It turns a $5,000 problem into like an $8,000 problem or $10,000 problem. So you want to be able to solve that problem for the buyer as you represent the seller. And if at all possible, we always recommend replacing the carpet ahead of time, and lean on your floor layers to be able to help you with the right color of carpet. If you're not an interior designer, it's okay. They'll assist you with that. But again, do it ahead of time if you can. If they don't have the ability to pay for it up front, then it could be something that you do closer to closing and get it done, but you'd prefer to have it done before you show the property, if you at all possible can do. If you have a great relationship with a floor laying company and you do a lot of business with them, sometimes they will allow you to install and pay for it at closing, but it just depends on what your relationships are out there. So make great relationships. I would say that'll take you further. But if at all possible, please replace it if it needs it, because you get the stinky old carpet out, get the new fresh smell in there. It'll show better, and it'll save your clients, but they'll make more money on the house by doing it that way. That's always been my perspective.
Perfect. Okay. Dokes.
Hey, Shelby, can I share something real quick?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to let you guys know, I know some of you have been in the business a while. If you've done business with the Cass Gazette, Paul O'Brien Jr., his father died. His dad's run the business forever, and mom and dad did. And Paul Sr. died last week. And the service is Wednesday at St. Sabina. I'll get more information. Holler at me if you want more information. But I just wanted to get that out there, because Cass Gazette's awesome to work with. If you don't work with them, if you do work with them, you already know that. So just want to let you know that.
Thank you for sharing that, Paul. That is very, very sad. I see his mom and dad in there all the time. Eric does all their, Eric just wired his daughter's house. So, yeah. So,
Also, speaking kind of along those lines, we've really been able to rally around Julie Phillips in the loss of Brent. And yesterday we were able to give her a card that was just stuffed with gift cards for her and her girls, about $675 worth of gift cards to different area restaurants, Target, Amazon, all kinds of stuff. And I know she was really touched by that. So many of you guys gave to that, and I just wanted to report back what we were able to actually give. So
awesome.
Thanks, Brandy, for overseeing that for all of us.
yeah, absolutely. Also, the care team's been involved, leadership's been involved, because this involves 2 of our agents. You know, we lost an agent, which is never, ever great, never fun. And then he happened to, be in relationship with another one of our agents. And so we were able to take a nice meal out to the family after the funeral on Saturday. We sent flowers to the funeral. So I want to report back to you what our KW family has been doing to support our fellow agents and their family in such a sad time. So. I didn't mean to kill the mood there. Sorry, Shelby.
Sorry.
I think it's a great thing. It's a nice thing. It's a sweet thing, just to watch family just rally around each other and love on each other in their time of need. So good job, guys.
That's what I love about our office, everybody coming together. I know Brandy is a sad time. Like, Brent was a friend of a lot of ours, and I've known him for probably 40 years. And so it doesn't seem real even still. And, but the love that this office has for our people, it's so heartwarming. And, as we work to finish up some transactions and things, and put some bows on some stuff for them, we're going to make it happen as an office. We're going to continue to rally around Julie and make sure she feels loved too. But it takes all of us here. And so you guys are all amazing. And thank you for doing your part with your relationships with our agents too. So I can't say enough. Thank you.
Good work, guys. Okay, we've just got a couple more minutes. Is everybody good for a couple more minutes?
Yep.
Okay, we'll keep trucking. Okay. Okay, so Section 8F of the contracts, lender appraisal requirements. are any of us putting money in there depending on the situation? So if we're dealing with an FHA buyer perhaps, and there needs to be all new paint on a porch or something, are we putting funds in there, or I try to not put money there because I see the deductions, and when I know as a listing agent, the more deductions that I'm having to show my seller, even if it's a minuscule amount, they still don't want to see a minus. So what's everybody think on that?
I
Nathan?
usually let that come about during the appraisal. I don't do, I do realize when things aren't going to pass, like for conditions and stuff. And so I do make note of those to the seller, but I don't really put a dollar figure on it. I just say that these things might pop up. And so that's how I cover it. And it seemed to work so far.
Yeah, I put a 0. I don't want to create a problem where there isn't one. So
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Because I had an agent put 250, and I just thought, well, 250 does nothing. 250 doesn't touch anything. So if that's all you're gonna put our feet to the fire, then okay, only 250. So okay. Section 9, utilities. Are we asking our sellers for utility bills ahead of time and putting it in with the listing presentation? I did it like on my earth contacts because those are, you know, a, that's the plus to purchasing an earth contact. So it kind of helps offset the fact that most people don't like, a percentage of buyers do not like them. So are you guys doing that for just normal homes? And thinking about solar panels, I know it's a plus if you have solar. Oh, with solar you do. Okay. On normal listings, I haven't done it on normal listings.
We have a utility sheet that's part of our seller's disclosure. So when we hand them the disclosure to work on, we call that their homework. We ask for the utility sheet to be completed. If it's a vacant home and it's been vacant for a while, then that might be the exception. But we like to have it. It saves me from getting a call on a Saturday or Sunday for people that are interested in writing an offer, but they want to know our utilities, and then I'm hustling around trying to figure all that out.
Awesome. Okay. I got to create that today then.
You can steal ours. It's really basic.
I'm all about
there might be one in the agent Kickstart downloads too, I believe. I'm
There
like
is.
87.9% sure it's there.
Yeah, Shelby, don't create anything. Somebody out there has gone before us and has created it. We've had other top agents in this country. They're writing contracts and spending tens of thousands of dollars, and then they'll go to a mastermind and somebody like, oh, I have that. I just would have given it to you. And so just ask. Somebody's got it already. So don't spend a bunch of time or money. Somebody can help you out.
Hate to sound like a broken record, but ChatGPT can make a PDF for you in probably 2 minutes.
Nice, Paul. Paul's going to get us thinking differently. That's awesome.
That's Paul's answer now. Just standard ChatGPT.
I ask it everything, and then it finally told me I had to pay for the app the other day, and I was like, oh man. So if you over ask it, it will ask you to pay for the app. I might have shown a lot of houses and I had no idea the age of a lot of things. So it was super helpful. Okay, guys, we're right at 11, so I don't want to keep anybody late because I know we've all got deals to seal and more business to go get. So great class today, y'all. Thank you so
Wonderful
much.
job, Shelby.
Thanks, Shelby.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
everybody for joining.
Thanks,
I
bye.
appreciate you all. Have a good weekend. Go sell something.
Yeah.
Good job, Shelby.
Thanks, guys. Bye.